Hi there. We're looking at the game one from the World Chess Championship that just ended a few minutes ago between Magnus Carlsen with the white pieces and Sergey Karjakin with the black pieces. Just a quick rundown. D4, Knight F6, and Bishop G5. And already avoiding any serious opening preparation. I love Magnus Carlsen's style. I made a video a few days ago about avoiding opening preparation, and this is a good example of it. And Carlsen picked a line that is theoretically supposed to just be, okay for black, no big deal. However, he gets a position with chances. So this is going to be definitely an interesting match. I had thought Magnus was going to play like this anyway, because you figure Karyakin, being a Russian grandmaster, has the full support of all the his Russian compatriots, and chess is very, um, very ingrained in Russia, and they have a lot of resources. A lot of grandmasters just hanging around, on the street out there, just very strong. So I know Karyakin is probably very well prepared. And so what I think you're going to see in this tournament is this, this cat and mouse game where Carlsen is going to be trying to avoid the serious preparation. So you probably won't be seeing any mainline Nimzo Indians and uh, Roy Lopez and Berlin defense, etc. So it's going to be interesting to see what Carlsen plays as black tomorrow. So anyway, you had this Trompowski, and this was really brought to popularity by British Grandmaster Julian Hodgson in the late 90s. He scored a lot of spectacular wins with it. D5, E3, and C5, just basically opening up the position and challenging white to take that knight. Bishop takes f6, G takes f6, and this is one of those positions where black takes on the static weakness of having a damaged pawn structure, but in turn he holds the two bishops as you see on f8 and c8. D takes e5, knight c6, bishop b5, e6. So what does white have in return? White gets the cleaner looking pawn structure, and that's basically his compensation for giving up that bishop earlier. So he's gonna have the cleaner pawn structure. It's a little bit easier uh, to play as far as I'm concerned. But black is just fine. He just has to be willing to deal with the structural defects in his position. I think black has to be a little bit more careful because there's a little bit more responsibility as far as maintaining his position. But he has the two bishops, open G file, and he's just fine. C4. So Magnus is attacking the center and wants to break down that pawn preponderance in the center, which he does. D takes c4. He plays knight d2, avoiding an immediate endgame. Bishop takes c5. Now knight gf3. Continues development because that c pawn will be captured any time. Castles by Karyakin. Castles. And knight a5. Rook c1, just piling up on the pawn. Bishop goes back to e7. Queen c2. So Magnus avoids the trade of queens right away. And he's going to capture this pawn now. Bishop d7. Now, this was an interesting move to me. I thought maybe a move like queen b6 was probably a little better. Just attacking the light square bishop. Because I thought that black should try to hold that bishop pair maybe a little longer here. So bishop d7 and bishop takes d7. And that's just sticking with the old idea that if your opponent has a bishop pair, it's good that if you can trade one of them off. Queen takes d7. So I thought white had the better of it out of that. Because now black has just one bishop, and which is okay, but he still has this the pawn weakness. He has 3 pawn islands right now. Queen c3 attacking the knight on a5. Queen d5. White recovers his pawn. Knight takes, queen takes, queen takes. Rook takes c4. Rook fc8 and rook fc1. So we see the position clarifies. We see white in control of the c file, and we see black with 3 pawn islands. What's a pawn island? Pawns on a7 and b7. That's considered an island. The 3 pawns that you see on f7, f6, and e6, that's considered another island. And then you have the lone isolated pawn on h7. So that's 3 pawn islands to white's 2. So the pawn structure is totally in white's favor. His rook's also doubled up on the c file, and that's in his favor also. So basically he has the better pawn structure, and his pieces are better. The only thing is that in this position, which is open or semi-open, that black bishop is basically black salvation in this position. But this is one of those positions where it's close to being equal. White has an advantage, and white has all the winning chances. So this is one of those positions where black has to be very careful and basically suffer for a bunch of moves, trying to hold on while white has all the fun trying to squeeze the juice out of the position. So rook takes, and rook d8. Carlsen plays g3. I had thought he would play king f1 followed by king e2, but this amounts to the same thing. Also on the one of the broadcasts, g4 was discussed with the idea of holding back f5. But g3 was played. Rook d7, guarding the penetration on the 7th rank. And there's king f1. f5 is played, and black plans to put that bishop on a nice diagonal on f6. King e2, and notice how the king combined with the knight. Well, actually, the king by itself guards the 3 penetration squares that the rook would like to enter, namely d1, d2, and d3. The knight is free to move, whereas black's rook is tied down to the defense of the 7th rank, and it's warning signs should start going off when your pieces can't move. You can't move your pawns. That's like a dangerous situation, because then what happens is that one last block topples the whole building, so to speak. When you become stiff and rigid, that's when the position starts to crack. Once you lose your flexibility. Bishop f6, attacking the b2 pawn. b3, Carlsen gives that bishop air to bite on. King f8, is bringing the king toward the center, and ultimately Karjakin would like to trade the rook that's on trade the rooks on d7 and c4 respectively, but he needs his king to support that. h3, some slow maneuvering here. h6, and knight e1. The knight is on its way to d3 and c5, and the idea in these type of positions is white is trying to provoke some more weakness out of black. Again, he's slightly better. He has some chances, but just not enough right now to win. Um, Black can pretty much hold, so the onus is on White to try to provoke Black into doing something that would damage his position. King e7, knight d3, king d8. So there you have it. The king gets itself better position. And f4. This was a move considered controversial also at the time. But what Magnus is doing is Magnus is trying to set up a situation where he can have an outpost for his knight later on. h5, good move. What does h5 do exactly? It fixes the white pawn on g3 as a weakness. So maybe down the road, it can be attacked since it's on dark squares. The g3 pawn, the f4 pawn, and e3 pawn all being on dark squares. You have a dark square bishop, and that can come in handy at some point. And also, in a perfect world, maybe that rook on the 7th rank on d7 can maybe get back to the g file and attack that pawn. So h5, excuse me, just fixes the weakness or potential weakness of g3. a4, so Magnus is gaining space. Again, this is about just trying to provoke weakness in the position. Rook d5, preventing a5. And now the knight attacks the b pawn, b6, so provoking its advance. Knight a6, bishop e7, and now knight b8. So the knight looks like it's close to becoming trapped here, but it has a way out, and it's a threat coming to c6, check, winning the a pawn. So the pawn advances to a5, and now knight c6 check. Now here, Magnus had the opportunity to take away that bishop, and it who knows, it's probably still drawish after knight takes e7, king takes e7, and it say rook c6, attacking the b pawn because the rook d6 will follow. And the pure rook ending, Magnus might have felt he had less chances of winning. Thus the old adage, all rook endings are drawn. Although it's not true, many rook endings are drawn. So he keeps the knight on the board, and now we see the benefit and luxury of having that pawn on f4 is now the knight lands in a good position. Good move by Karjakin, preventing the penetration of the rook, and just blocking the rook's entry on the c file. Rook c3. Now Magnus Carlsen's idea is to trade the rooks and keep the minor pieces. So for instance, his idea is just to shift the rook to d3 and forcing the trade, because in a perfect world, white would love to play rook d3 and then have rook takes rook occur, king takes rook, and then march his king right to b5, and then put his knight on c4 and win the b pawn, create some type of distraction. But now you can see in this more simplified position, those pawns that are on dark squares and the dark square bishop. So a piece needs to stay around and protect those. So black has just enough counterplay to keep the game equal, or else white would be able to just run wild with his king because his king is closer to the center. So king e7, there it is, rook d3, rook takes d3, king takes d3. And again, white would love to just run over to b5 and like knight c4 and win those pawns on the queen side, and then push his pawns up and make a queen. You know, perhaps with ideas like e4, getting rid of one of the weaknesses, and then following up maybe with G4. However, black's move, and black plays F6. Magnus has to move, so he plays knight C6 check, king D6, attacking the knight and improving his king's position at the same time. Knight D4, king D5. So notice that now Karjakin has dramatically improved his king. Remember, his king was all the way on the back rank and now is right in the center of the board and actually occupies more space than white's king right now, because black's king is on his fourth rank where white's king is only on his third rank. Knight B5, king C6, not allowing the knight to bounce around in the black position. Knight D4, king D6, and knight B5, trying to offer some type of repetition. Karjakin goes king D7, knight D4, king D6, and the players agreed to a draw. So that was an interesting beginning and start to the World Chess Championship. Good defense and holding up under pressure by Karjakin, and I'm excited to see what the next game brings. So I hope you enjoyed that quick rundown and brief analysis. Please like and subscribe, comment, and check out my other videos covering many topics in the world of chess. And any questions or suggestions, please feel free to ask. And I'll see all of you on the next video.